Here are 10 super actionable, small changes that you can make that will immediately create more productivity in your life. Help you to manage your time better, help you to get things done more easily. Idea number 1. So Jim Law spent hundreds of hours hunched over watching videos of top tennis players. And he watched them play their best matches. He was trying to find what the patterns were, what the similarities were. And he couldn't figure it out because the way they played their games, there didn't seem to be any patterns or similarities that were stark and obvious. And he could not figure it out until he started watching these players between points, which kind of means like in their breaks. He noticed that these top players had patterns in the ways that they would walk, how they held their body, how they breathed, where they focused their eyes. There were even similarities in the way that they talked to themselves between points. Lower ranked players didn't have these routines. He even hooked a bunch of players up to EKGs, and he found that the big guys, the successful players, had their heart rates drop up to as much as 20 beats per minute in a 16 to 20 second mini break compared to the smaller, like less successful players who didn't have their heart rates drop at all or showed very little change. How well you rest and recover has a big impact on how well you play in the context of tennis, but also in the context of any work ever. When it comes to creativity, when it comes to getting your admin done, when it comes to painting your house, how well you rest and recover will determine how well you do the job. Which is why the very first small change to make is to have a list that's clear, visible, super accessible of things that you can do on your breaks to recover that are not playing on your phone. If you are lifting bricks all day or you paint walls for a living, it makes sense that you want to break with your phone. It's not a great break, but like it makes sense and it probably will actually restore you. But if you are tapping away at a keyboard all day, if you are on a screen all day, a phone isn't a break. Breaks are about replenishing your cognitive resources, and it's been shown when you go onto your phone as a break, you're not replenishing any cognitive resources. If anything, you're draining them more. I have a little list of breaks at my computer that has helped me because I often forget to break, or I'll be like, what do I do on my breaks? And having this little list prompts me in the best kind of way. Feel free to steal some of the ideas on the screen. Idea number 2. So pick a passive task that you don't really enjoy, that you've tried to make yourself enjoy, but it's just not been happening. For example, meal prep, cleaning. Then pick a type of media that is released pretty consistently that you always look forward to watching. Now you want to create a bright line rule. A bright line rule is a clear rule that if you break it, it's just super obvious. Your brain can see that you've broken the rule. In this case, your bright line rule is going to be, I will only listen to or watch selected media if I am doing activity that I usually don't look forward to and avoid doing. I actually made a whole video where I followed a similar kind of bright line rule. I actually only let myself watch or listen to media if I was cleaning, tidying, making food, or just generally being productive. And it was one of the more peaceful and productive months that I have ever had. If you want to watch that journey, I'm going to have that linked. I would also schedule a text or two to remind yourself of this rule because it's one of those rules that's like pretty easy to set, but also pretty easy to forget. Idea number 3. Every time that you are deeply resisting something, maybe you're procrastinating starting a client proposal, maybe you are resisting your home workout habit, and all the normal stuff that you usually do isn't working. Like you've set timers, you've given yourself a pep talk, whatever. You want to start to think of yourself like a beautiful, complex car. If a car starts running, until you work out why it's not running, you won't be able to fix it. Pouring in more petrol will not help a dead battery. And same goes for people. Until you can figure out why you are having trouble starting, it is a lot harder to get started. When this year started, I actually hit a lot of unexpected resistance. I was so go towards the end of last year that when I started this year, I was like, I don't want to do a single thing. And a lot of the things like timers just didn't quite do it for me. So it's been this really interesting experiment of working with myself to move past a lot of resistance. And the number one thing that has been helpful for me has actually been journaling on my resistance, but journaling in specific ways. I basically created a bunch of different resistance journaling templates to help me to get out of this funk. And I turned those resistance journaling templates into something that I could use in Notion. So whenever I found myself procrastinating, instead of beating myself up or making it mean something, I'd go and use my resistance journaling templates. And it saved me. With the newer Notion AI features, you can also make journaling more helpful. For example, you can do a little journaling session and then you can ask Notion's AI, what am I assuming here? What might I be missing here? What are some obvious action steps that I should be taking based on this chunk of text? Based on what I've written, what do you think I should do? Notion has also recently introduced Notion Q&A, which is such a fun function. It is like having a personal assistant that has immediate access to all of the notes, thoughts, research that you've ever popped into your Notion. Like your own little personal librarian, if you will, that governs your second brain. For example, I have all my book notes in Notion, and with the Notion question and answer feature, I can ask Notion, hey, like, I can remember this vague story from this one book. Don't know what the book name is, don't really know what the story is. Can you find it for me? I used to have to really jog my memory around, okay, well, what book was that from? And what were the specific words that were in that story so that I can search on those specific keywords, which is truly such a waste of time when you are a content creator. Like, that could take me 30 minutes to 45 minutes just to find the right passage or the right story. But with the Notion question and answer feature, I can just type in my thoughts and feelings and it'll find it for me. And this is also helpful if I want to put together a new video. I often do like to put new spins on old content because I think repeated content isn't a big issue, but you want to spin it in a new way. And oftentimes, like, if I posted something a year ago, I have something new to say about old topics. So I can use the Notion Q&A feature and sort of ask it, hey, like, creating a video about this. What are some things that I could use? It'll pull from my old content and help me to find all of the ideas that I have shared in the past on a certain topic. And sometimes I am shocked by all ideas that I shared. I'm like, God, that was a good one. You can get started with Notion for free using my link down in the description below and get the Notion AI add-on for just $10 a month. Check out the link down in the description below. Idea number 4. When you really break productivity down, it is the habit of starting over and over again. And I don't mean like starting new projects or starting new goals, I mean starting, period. If you master the art of continuously starting, you are automatically going to be a more productive person. And one change that you can make to make getting started really easy is to get a visual timer. These are the kind of timers that a teacher might have in a kindergarten or a primary school, because kids struggle to understand like the passing of time. But I would argue that so do adults. Having a visual reminder of time passing adds just that little bit of pressure on that gets you moving. There is a reason why people use countdown timers on product pages for sales. Seeing that there is only 1 hour and 30 minutes left to buy something puts a little bit of pressure on and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to buy it. It boosts your motivation, it gets you to take action, and having a timer that's designed to get you started and get you doing things does much the same thing. Think about it this way. If you hit a weekend and you're like, I wanna work on my goals, but man, like I don't really feel like it. I'd rather just like sit and watch Netflix. But then you set yourself a goal to start. Just start 5 times. So you would set a timer 5 times during that day. And the timer could be for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Chances are you will get more done than you expect because the momentum that you create will get you to keep on going. So long as you keep on starting, you will get through things. Idea number 5. Lots of parents that I talk to tell me that their baby has a bunch of different cries. They may not sound different, but to a parent who intimately gets their baby's patterns, needs, and wants, they're very different. There's the I'm hungry cry, there's the I'm hot cry, there's the get me out of here, I want to move cry. But to a person with no baby experience, a crying baby is really just a crying baby. And procrastination is really similar in that nature. To the untrained person, procrastination just looks like procrastination, but actually there are very different types of procrastination. And your job as kind of your own self-parent is to get to know the very intimate different types of procrastination so that you can work with them better and understand what to do when they appear. You kind of do want to treat yourself like a newborn baby. You're getting to know your cries or your styles of procrastination and what they mean. For example, here are 2 very different styles of procrastination that you would deal with very differently. Oh God, like cleaning right now just feels like such a big task. I don't even want to start. That is an overwhelm cry. Man, I hate doing this stuff. I'm so over it. I never get the time to do what I want. That is a freedom cry. Not every cry is that deep, but every cry does have a different solution. You wouldn't give a baby that needed to be burped a blanket. And in the same way, stress and overwhelm shouldn't be treated with a Pomodoro timer, which is why the next tip is to create a procrastination book. Put it on your desk, put it somewhere super visible. And the job of your procrastination book is to start documenting your cries or your different types of procrastination and why they exist. You are getting to intimately understand what your procrastination is trying to tell you. Soon you'll become as efficient with your procrastination as a new parent becomes with their bubs cries. Weird analogy, but I really stuck with it and I think it made sense. Idea number 6. If you wanted to get big muscly arms, you would lift. You would lift over and over again. If you want to be able to concentrate on hard things for longer stretches of time, you need to do the weightlifting equivalent. You need to build your attention muscles by putting in the reps. And I'm talking about distractedness here, not procrastination or deep resistance like I just talked about. Low-level distractedness that isn't coming from a place of like super big resistance is something that you can do something about pretty easily. And Flinders University actually designed a program to help students with exactly this problem. So when their students would sit down to study, books, pens, papers in hand, they'd have them draw a line down a piece of paper. On one side, the students would write the task that they were working on, and then whenever that student noticed that they were on Facebook Marketplace searching for cute vintage lamps or Googling how Sabrina Carpenter and Barry Keoghan actually met. They'd make a mark on the other side of the paper. They'd write down what the distraction was, and then they would move their attention back to the task at hand. This program likes to frame distraction as a habit. Just like the habit of biting your nails or pressing snooze too many times in the morning, it's something that you can overcome with a little bit of patience and effort. It's kind of like an easier form of meditation. Like instead of having to sit down, put aside time, shut your eyes and do the whole breathing thing, you are eyes wide open, getting things done, and you're just bringing your attention back to the task instead of your breath. And if you're listening to this and you're like, no, but I suck at concentrating, I think that that is kind of like a really skinny person going to the gym. A really skinny person walking into a gym is starting in a different place than someone who's already a bit stocky. They may not be able to gain as much muscle in as quick of a time, but they can definitely gain muscle. A super distracted person can train the executive functioning part of their brain, which is the part of their brain that's a bit better at not being so distracted. They just have a different starting point, and they may not be able to put on as much muscle as the other people around them. Not always though, but often that is the case. To really put this idea into action, every day for at least 30 minutes, just pick a task. Put on a little beep at 5-minute intervals while you do this task that reminds you to bring your attention back to the task if you're super distracted. Whenever you notice yourself distracted, make a little mark, move your attention back to the task. This idea isn't that helpful though unless you embrace the next idea. Idea number 7. This is one of the smallest, easiest to do little habits that you can implement into your life to improve your productivity. If your brain isn't super clear on what the next step of your task is, it makes sense that it might get distracted. Imagine each part of your task is like a literal ladder. Now imagine if you went to step up on the ladder but there was no next step. Of course you're not going to want to keep on climbing. When your brain gets one portion of a task done, it's like, yes, I'm done. And if it doesn't see the next step in front of it, it's like, I'm at the top of the steps. No need to keep on focusing. Instead, I am going to Google how to create the perfect at-home herb garden, which is why getting into a very simple habit of doing a brain dump of each task that you have on your plate before starting the task, you are building out a tiny ladder for your brain, making sure that your brain at no point will go, oh, there's no steps left, I'm good to go. It's so much easier to keep focused on a task when you have this, because it's very cognitively draining to have to constantly think what next when it comes to this task. And if you suck at breaking things down, you can also ask ChatGPT to help you. You can be like, help me out, how would one break this down? And then you can sort of use that as a template or something to go off. Try to focus on breaking things down to steps that are as small as like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your attention span. You know yourself best. If you need to break it down into 2-minute steps, you break it down into 2-minute steps. Idea number 8. So your brain only has 2 to 4 hours of deep work in it per day. Some people have a little bit more, some people have a little bit less, most people sit in that range. And deep work means any work that involves creativity, solving problems, or just doing anything that's super cognitively demanding, where you have to think a lot. Usually these hours are best done of a morning, unless you were a night person, in which case best done of a night. Which is why the next tip is to create a list of deep work tasks and a list of quick ticks. Your deep work task list should contain tasks that are in the deep work realm that take max 2 hours, because you're going to assume that, you know, some days you don't have the 4 hours in you. Your shallow work list should contain quick ticks that take like 15, 20 minutes max. In a way, knowing that you only have 2 to 4 hours of deep work per day is kind of liberating, and it also can make you a lot more intentional about what you get done during the day. It forces you to be really selective about the tasks that you choose. Plus, when you have these 2 lists, it's so easy to go into your low energy periods and be able to pick hot off the press tasks for you to complete. Idea number 9. Imagine if you were a kid and you had a parent that scheduled in like every other minute of your day. Like your playtime was scheduled. They told you exactly what you were doing during your playtime, if you got playtime at all, from wake up to sleep. You wouldn't be a super happy or healthy kid, because happy, healthy kids are curious. They follow their interests. They have free play. And if you take that away, a kid is going to start to feel a bit suffocated and probably a bit stressed. And as an adult, you truly are not that different, which is why the next idea is to schedule in free time, or planned spontaneity, which is a term that I learned from David Maloney. You can add these little slots of planned spontaneity in your work week or in your weekend if you like to do things on your weekend too. And when you reach a block of planned spontaneity in your calendar, you sit down and you wait for curiosity or desire to hit you, just like a kid might. Obviously, the normal urges to check your phone or social media, they could come up. I would encourage you to sit and wait for those urges to pass and see if anything deeper comes up. Wait out the urges and let your mind move to actual desires, which really carry a totally different feeling. This is all about creating bursts of freedom in your life, which I sincerely believe will make you a more productive person. Especially if you're stressed out, if you have a lot of obligations, it's deeply important to plan in free time, free play. day. When you start adding these little bursts of free time into your week, this ironic effect will start happening where you'll feel less resistant towards doing your actual work. Because you have free time to look forward to that isn't just passive mind-numbing free time, but like real free time that you're like, yeah, that's gonna be so fun. Now, none of these tips actually matter unless you have put thought and effort into how you plan your days. I created a whole video all about how to do that. It's gonna be linked down below as well as on the screen. I appreciate you so much and I will see you soon.